Now that we have understand what code execution, command execution, or code execution vulnerability is, now let's see how we can be able to exploit command execution vulnerability in this particular lecture. Now, and for that, there is also a section in this damn vulnerable web app that has command execution vulnerability, and we can just navigate to that section and then see what that vulnerability is all about and how we can be able to exploit it. And our DVWA is currently set at low security level. So let's see at low security level how we could be able to exploit this command execution vulnerability. So this is basically a text box that enable us to enter an IP address and an IP address that we want to ping. So IP address of any host computer that we want to ping. Now this when we submit the IP address, then the computer will run the ping command on our behalf and then ping that particular IP address and then give us the result. So let's see about it. So let me enter the IP address of my host machine, the Linux machine that I'm currently on, 192.168.168.43.194. So this is the IP address of my Kali of my Linux machine. I'm not using Kali of this my Linux machine. Let me go and confirm that. If config. So we can see that this is the IP address of my Linux machine, 192.168.43.194. So let us go back. So now I have entered this IP address that I want that particular server, which is the since we are on the browser now, we are submitting the request to the server, and then the server will request this particular, will ping this particular host whose IP is 192.168.43.194, which is the Linux machine that I'm on, and then give us the result of the running the ping command. So let us submit and see what happens. Okay, as we can see, perfect. The server has returned to us the result of running the ping command on that particular host computer, and then we can see it. Now, command execution vulnerability is a situation as we have previously seen in the previous lecture, will enable us to run commands, OS commands on that particular website, on that particular server that is hosting that particular website. So we can run Linux. If it is a Linux server, we can run Linux command. If it is a Windows server and Windows-based server, we can run Windows commands. All right. So now let's see how we can be able to run some Linux command on the server that is hosting this DVWA. So and we are going to submit the command alongside the ping. Since we know that once we enter IP address, the server is performing the ping on our behalf. It is basically running an OS command, which is the ping command. So we are familiar with ping command. Ping command is just a command that is used for testing a host computer to know whether it is up. Like I can ping the Metasploitable. I can ping the Metasploitable. Let me go and get the IP of the Metasploitable machine. This is the Metasploitable machine, and then let me know the IP address. I can run sudo. Okay, I have a login and msf admin. All right, so sudo ifconfig msf admin, which is the password. So as you can see, this is the IP address of the Linux of this particular Metasploitable, which is a Linux machine, also 192.168.43.230. So let me go and ping it from this Linux machine that I'm on. So ping 192.168.43.230. All right. So as we can see, we have been able to ping it, and it is up, and we are getting a response from the that particular Metasploitable since the machine is alive, is off. All right, let me stop it. Control C to stop it. As you can see, we submitted 12 packet, transmitted, and we received 12 were received, and there's not any packet loss. So we know that particular machine is up. All right, so let me clear the terminal. So basically, a ping is a Linux command to test to see whether a computer is up. So and then now, and also in Linux, we can run multiple commands at once. So instead of running a single command, I can run 2, 3 or more commands at once. So one command will execute, and then after it has finished executing, then the next command will execute. Now let's see this practically. So I can type the command ls, which is, we know that this is a command that will list out the content of a directory, and then alongside it I can type another command, pwd, print working directory, to show me the current directory that I am on. So let me run it. As you can see, the ls command has executed, and it has given us the files that are currently residing on this directory, on the current directory that we are on, and then pwd has printed the current working directory that we are on. So the both two commands have run successfully. So with this this particular symbol, a semicolon, will enable us to run multiple commands at once. One command will execute first, then the next command will take over and also execute, and both will give us their result. All right, perfect. So now, armed with this knowledge, now we can be able to go to that particular text input box here. We know that once we enter our IP address, then the server is running an OS command to ping the machine whose IP address we entered. Then we can enter a semicolon and then run multiple commands at once together. So I can enter 192 and pwd 192, which is the IP address that we want to ping, 192.168.43.194, which is the IP address of the machine that we are on now. Then we want to submit it to the Linux server that this DBWA web application is being hosted on. Then followed by another command that we want to run, say pwd. All right. So let's just submit these two commands at once and then see whether they will be able to be executed. All right, as you can see, perfect. So the ping command has pinged, and it has given us the result of the ping. And below it, we have the result of running the pwd print working directory, and it shows that we are in var www.dbwa vulnerabilities execute. That is the current working directory that we were on. When we run this particular command, where the command was run from, just as we see it when we run the pwd on the Linux on this particular machine terminal. So now with this knowledge, now this has revealed to us that this particular website has a command execution vulnerability. That means we can be able to run command that will give us that will help us gain a connection over that particular server. So now with this, we can be able to use some bash commands. We know bash is a language, is a shell, is a bash shell. We know it's a language for interacting with a Linux or operating system, or even a scripted language such as Python. We can use. We know that most Linux machines come with Python installed. Then we can make use of we can submit some Python commands to be able that will get run on the machine and help us gain a connection about that machine. And another way is making use of a netcat. Now, netcat is also a tool for gaining remote connection from machines. So now we are going to make use of netcat to see how we can gain connection over this particular server as a result of exploiting this command execution vulnerability. So to make use of a netcat, now I'm going to go to the terminal and then I'm going to run this command. I'll come here. Let me clear the terminal so that we can have a fresh output. So I'm going to run nc, which is the netcat tool. I'm referring to the netcat tool, and then I'm going to follow it by vv. VB means verbosity. That means I want to see everything outputted. I want to have a verbose output. So I want to have a detailed output as a result of running this command, and then followed by L, means that I'm listening for an incoming connection. So I'm going to run two commands. One command on this particular Linux machine, and I'm going to submit command to that particular server where that web application is hosted on. And since we know that Linux server where that web application is hosted on is vulnerable to command execution vulnerability, so we are going to submit some commands that will get executed on that particular web application, and then this will create a reverse connection. So it will create a connection that will be coming from that particular Linux server back to this our machine. So our machine is now listening. So that Linux machine will also expect it to have a netcat. So both this my machine, the Linux machine that I'm on now, has a netcat, and we also expect that the Linux machine where that web application is hosted on also has a netcat. So we are going to make use of these two netcat, that is one that is installed here and netcat that is installed there on that Linux machine where that web application is hosted on, to create a connection. So that particular web application will create a reverse connection, will create a reverse connection that will connect to this our machine. And then so I put -L option to listen for an incoming connection that will be coming from that web application. And then I'm going to specify the port that the connection is going to come from. So I'm going to open port 8080 so that when the incoming connection comes through, it should pass through port 8080. Okay, so I'm saying NC netcat-bv babosti. I want to see a detailed output. And then L for listening. That means we are listening for an incoming connection. We're expecting a connection to come from outside. And then P, I'm specifying the port number. So we know about port. So it is going to pass through port 8080 when it reaches this my machine. All right, and then I'm going to hit enter. So now my machine is listening, waiting for an incoming connection to come through port 8080. All right, so now perfect. So now go back to the my browser where I have this web application. Then I'm going to run these multiple commands. I'm going to ping, specify the IP address that I want to ping, which is the normal usage of this particular text box, 192.168.43.194. Okay, then as we know that we can run multiple commands on a Linux machine, then I put this semicolon. Now the next thing I'm going to run is the netcat command that I'm going to want to get executed on that remote Linux machine where this the Linux server where this particular web application is hosted on, so as to create a reverse connection to this my Linux machine that I'm currently on. So I have this particular command. Just go over there and copy it and then come and paste it here. So I've created the command here, which is netcat, and then we are creating a shell. We want to run this command 192.168.43.194.8080. So this is basically just the command that will, when we run it on that particular remote Linux server, then it will create a reverse connection to our Linux machine. And remember that we have already run netcat, and netcat is listening, waiting for an incoming connection from port 8080. So this when we run this command on that remote Linux server, then it will create a reverse connection that will come out from port 8080 to reach our computer through port 8080. So I'll just copy this. I'm just going to copy this, and then I'm going to go there to the DBWA web application. I'm going to paste it. Then I'm going to submit. Okay, so I've submitted it, and I'm sure it has been executed. Now let me go back again and then see whether I have been able to gain a connection. All right, NC get name info, temporary failure in name resolution. Okay, so this is an issue that we may have. But when I run this, I didn't get any issue. So what was the issue? I don't know what was the issue. So let me run the command again. So we are listening for an incoming connection. Okay, so let me go back again and then run the netcat on the Linux on this particular text box again. So let me see. So I already have it here. So let me submit it again and then see what I'm going to have. So let me go back again to the Linux machine here. So I don't know why we're having this error, but let me see whether we'll be able to fix this issue. So sudo This is a DNS name resolution issue. Subul, and then I'm going to Subul is the command to trigger my Sublime text editor, and then we have etc. I'm going to etc directory. Then there is a file called resolve.conf, which is the one that will contain the IP address of my DNS server, and then I'm going to hit enter. So let me get it open, and then I'm going to see the web server that has been specified for resolving. Okay, name server 888888. Okay, so I don't know why we're having this issue. All right, so I can ignore this name resolution by specifying -n after running the command here. I can specify -n option to show that I just want to, and I'm not resolving any domain name. So I'm not resolving any domain name, so I'm just enter -n, and then let's see whether this will solve the issue. Okay, sorry, it's supposed to be before this port 80. Sorry, let me cut it. So it's going to be this is port. I'm specifying -p. I'm specifying the port, which is 8080. So let me -n. I don't want any name resolution. I don't want any domain name to be resolved. So I'm going to hit enter. So perfect. So we can see that we are listening on where our netcat is listening for incoming connection. Then I'll go back there and then run the command that we previously run here, and then try to see whether we'll be able to gain a connection. So I'm going to submit this. All right, so let me go back and see whether I've been able to gain a connection on my Linux terminal. Okay, let me minimize this. All right, so perfect. As you can see, we have been able to gain a connection as a result of exploiting command execution vulnerability. And I can type pwd, know the current working directory we are on that particular Linux server where the damn vulnerable web application is hosted on, ls, to see the files that are hosted on that directory. So basically, as you can see, we can interact with the remote Linux server using our netcat, and through by us exploiting the command execution vulnerability at low security level of the damn vulnerable web application.